Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome in to episode number 2 of our WWF 1992 save in TEW 2020. This is Superstars of Wrestling for January week 1. And listen, I told you guys I was excited about this in the intro episode. Like, I'm even more excited now as I start to look at this. And especially, I'll tell you what I'm most excited about. The fact that there aren't that many segments on the show because it's a 1-hour show. And so this is kind of it's going to be like my guilty pleasure series probably of the channel, just because you guys know WWE 2024, the TCW saves, those are usually 20 plus segments for each show, maybe. TCW a little less than that, but like 24, 25 segments for Raw usually in the WWE 2024 one. So this was a nice sort of change here to have a show that's much easier to book and really focus on the top storylines as we move towards the Royal Rumble, which will be January week 3. So yeah, this was a lot of fun to put together, and I'm really excited about this series. So, all right, let's jump in here, and we start with the pre-show. We've got 3 pre-show matches. Don't worry, we didn't put this on the main card. So pre-show, the Beverly Brothers get the win over Brian Costello and Jim Powers, a tag team main eventing anywhere in the world. The Beverly Brothers, 505 victories. The Bo gets the pin on Costello with the Shaker Heights spike. So the tag team bonus for the Beverly Brothers, obviously they were, pretty involved around this time, and we'll see what happens with the Beverly Brothers here in terms of how we use them moving forward. But they're on the pre-show here. 30 for this match. Another 30. We are just off to a great start match-wise. In the pre-show, the Warlord gets the win over Chris Walker, 502, the running power slam. So probably a little bit longer than it needed to be, but giving the Warlord a little work here. So 30 for the rating here. Not a lot to add. An abysmal pre-show match. The Warlord gets the victory. All right, this one a little bit better. Hacksaw Jim Duggan getting the win over Barry Horwitz as 458. The 3-point stance, the clothesline from Hacksaw. The tough guy gets the win here. 41, as we said, for this one. Not a lot to add. Barry Horowitz going to really be used quite a bit here. If you're a Barry Horowitz fan, you're going to love this guy because, hey, we don't have a lot of jobbers on the roster just yet. We're probably going to need to add a few more to kind of keep the rotation fresh because this is, kind of back in the day. We know there were not exactly a lot of featured matches that were, star on star, not main event on main event necessarily at Superstars of Wrestling. So some of these matches we are going to lean into kind of the way they did them back then, really just pushing the character, the story, we'll see how that changes as we start to get later into the year and maybe once we debut Raw in 93. But for now, we're going to try to stick to the same sort of formula. It'll be a little bit different. But all right, that's the pre-show. 3 matches, and now we jump into the main edition of Superstars of Wrestling, and we start with a big segment, 92 here. Jack Tunney looks lost, but that doesn't matter because Jack Tunney is here to announce. He's at his desk. If you all remember back in the day, the nostalgia of Jack Tunney just sitting behind his desk. What a visual. As Jack announces the stipulation for the 1992 Royal Rumble match, he goes over all the events that led to vacating the WWF Championship, the shenanigans with Hulk Hogan, The Undertaker, Ric Flair getting involved, everything that took place, Survivor Series this Tuesday in Texas, all the stuff that led to him making the decision to vacate the championship. And so he announces that the stipulation for the Royal Rumble match will be that the winner will go on to be one half of the main event at WrestleMania 8. And he says, after the Royal Rumble, we will have further information on how we will decide on who the other person will be in the match for the vacant WWF Championship at WrestleMania 8. So, yes, I know this is a little bit different than the way they did it previously, where the match was actually for the championship. We're going to do it a little bit differently here. And as you will see, maybe not right away, there is a big reason why we've decided to do it this way, but you have to give it a little bit to play out. So, for now, though, what we know is that the winner of this match is guaranteed a spot in that WrestleMania main event and will be one step away from becoming the WWF champion. So, we kind of put all these different guys here. These are, kind of our obvious main event guys: Hogan, Taker, Savage, Slaughter, Flair, DiBiase, Jake, all of that. So, yeah, we're kind of just setting it up that way. And again, I think the way we're going to do it will be a lot of fun once you realize why we're doing it this way. So 92 for this segment. All right, match number 1. We get the Big Boss Man getting a win over Colonel Mustafa, the Iron Sheik himself. 457, the Boss Man Slam. Iron Sheik not bad here. 55 on the in-ring performance. You still got General Adnan with Colonel Mustafa here. So Boss Man gets the win. Colonel Mustafa serving hard time. 45 for the match. Not a lot to add here, but commentary, which we're going to have to use here a little bit to kind of push some of this stuff because we don't have a lot of space. Again, it is a 1-hour show, so we don't have a lot of space to put all the segments that we usually do on the WWE saves or TCW ones, anything like that. But commentary kind of pushing that the Boss Man has to be considered. Also, one of the, perhaps top favorites in this Royal Rumble match, and we have the commentary team kind of putting them over a little bit here. Vince and Roddy Piper are our commentary team, by the way, and you'll see in a second how that's going to kind of play into some things that we do. But Mr. Perfect was set as the color commentator, but because he's injured, he's not available, so we couldn't put him in that role. And every time I tried to put him in there, wouldn't allow it. So we went with Roddy Piper as the color commentator with Vince on this one. So 45 the opening match, the Boss Man, the victory over Colonel Mustafa. All right, and then we've got Roddy Piper, who's gonna kind of serve as our scoop guy, the guy who's in the locker room. He's hearing all these things, and Roddy Piper says, Vince, I've got some big rumors going on. I've been hearing everything that took place with Shawn Michaels turning on Marty Jannetty, his partner, at the barbershop. He kicked him right through the glass. Piper says, I'm hearing that next week we're going to see the new Shawn Michaels right here on Superstars of Wrestling. So Piper kind of pushing the new version of this. 74. Okay, so we're kind of playing up here. We've already seen the barbershop segment with Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. So that's how we're kind of playing it into what we'll add. As you guys know, all of this stuff, we're not just completely picking up from January 192. Not everything we add to the mix is going to necessarily be what was going on at the time. We're going to kind of start with our own blank slate, but obviously we will tie certain things into it. And this is one where we're basically going to tie in the story of Shawn Michaels turning on Marty Jannetty. And again, Piper kind of hyping up. We're going to see the new Shawn Michaels next week here on Superstars of Wrestling. So that's kind of how we're going to play it up, and you'll see as we get going, the historical part won't really matter all that much because, again, we're kind of moving into our own direction. But at the start, at least, there will be certain things we tie in, certain things we won't. And so, yeah, that you guys know, that's just always how I like to do it on these saves, rather than having to have every little tiny detail perfectly in place before we start the save. Let's just start where we want to start and add things in that we want to add in, and everything else can just be what it is. So 74 for this segment. All right, as Luke has sustained whiplash neck strain. Not ideal. Luke off his game, whiplash neck strain. 2 matches into this thing on the main card, we've already got an injury. Not ideal. So, not the best, but it is the natural disasters, Earthquake and Typhoon, getting the win over the Bushwackers here, 453. Earthquake pins Butch with the Earthquake splash. But I assume someone's going to get blamed for the injury here. That may not be the case, but I have a feeling somebody will get blamed for this. But anyways, let's just go ahead and see what happens here. So Blackjack lands, it lets us know Luke did sustain whiplash neck strain in the match. So, okay, no one blamed for it. So that's good. Natural disasters get the win. And that's no. Also, I forgot to mention, before we get into the Bulldog promo here, if you're wondering why we did not maybe try to replicate the barbershop segment or anything like that just for fun to start this off, it's because we had to send Marty Jannetty to rehab on day 2. So we got Marty Jannetty identified as a hard drug user, and we decided we were going to deal with him by sending him to rehab. It had a very positive effect on him, so maybe Marty comes out a different man. Let's hope so. So we will not be using Marty Jannetty. For any Marty Jannetty fans out there, you will not see him in the save for a while because we've had to send him to rehab one day into this thing. So, all right, now we get a sort of pre-tape promo here. Sean Moody with the British Bulldog. And this is one where you guys would laugh at me. I almost want to try, try doing promos like these guys and just use their voices. But, man, that would be, what a mess that would be if I tried to actually do voices for the British Bulldog. Other guys you're going to see here cutting promos in a second. I just don't think I would do a good job at that. So I'm going to keep this pretty straightforward. the British Bulldog with Sean Mooney, and he's asking, Bulldog, what do you think? Davey Boy Smith, what do you think about this whole Royal Rumble thing? And he's just saying, he will be involved in the Rumble, and that kind of pushing that, he's feeling a lot of momentum right now, and that 1992 is going to be his year. It will be the year of the Bulldog, and basically kind of pushing that he wants to win the Royal Rumble. So, yeah, kind of setting up the British Bulldog here. These promos are going to be pretty basic to start because, as we said, this is kind of, it's the way it works until we get into stories and that kind of stuff. So, pretty much just pushing that the Bulldog saying this is going to be his year, and he is someone else who has his sights set on winning the Royal Rumble and perhaps being one half of that main event at WrestleMania 8. So 47 for the segment. All right, now we get another interview here. It is Gene Okerlund with The Undertaker and Paul Bearer. And, Gene's asking Taker questions. He's not responding. He's just doing, he's rolling his eyes. He's just standing there just with a very big scowl on his face because we know Undertaker's still pissed everything that's happened with Hulk Hogan. And so Paul Bearer, again, if you guys want to hear me do my Paul Bearer impression, I can do that for you, but I'm just not going to right now. Basically, Bearer just pushing that, Taker's going to take out everyone in his path to get to Hulk Hogan. Whether it's in the Rumble, outside the Rumble, it doesn't matter. So kind of pushing the continued tension between Hogan and Taker, given the history here between the two leading into the 1992 Royal Rumble. So good stuff here in terms of the improvisation for both Gene and Paul Bearer. All right, now we get another match, and it's the Mounty, who always gets his man, as he gets the win over El Matador, 738, the submission with the Quebec Crab after interference from Jimmy Hart. What a pairing we have here between the Mounty and Jimmy Hart. Excellent chemistry together, and a pretty good match here, 62 for this one. El Matador, Tito Santana getting better at his gimmick, but nice little superstars match here between these two as the Mounty gets the win. And as you're going to find out here, the Mounty's got a big match coming up because at the Royal Rumble, 48 here, brutal. Bret not quite where he needs to be here on this one. Bret's got low morale. We need to change that. I'm not sure why Bret is so upset, but actually I do know why Bret is so upset. Never mind. I know why Bret is upset. We'll get into that a little bit later maybe. So, yes, Bret, kind of another promo here with Sean Mooney, and Bret is kind of taking aim at the Mounty because that is going to be our Intercontinental Championship match at the Royal Rumble. Bret Hart will defend against the Mounty one-on-one, and Bret here with a promo just saying that the Mounty is nothing but a cheater, which we just saw in the previous match, and that he won't be able to cheat his way out of the sharpshooter when Bret locks it on and retains the title at the Royal Rumble. So Bret Hart taking aim at the Mounty. There's one match in addition to the 1992 Royal Rumble that we know will be on the card. Bret Hart versus the Mounty for the Intercontinental Championship. 48 for the segment. We got to get Bret's morale up, given where he's at this time. All right, now we get kind of hyping up next week's edition of Superstars of Wrestling, and we will hear from Ric Flair, Jake the Snake Roberts, and the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich. They'll all kind of give their thoughts on the Rumble situation. All three men will be in the 1992 Royal Rumble. We'll also have our tag team champions, the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, will be in action next week. So kind of hyping up certain things on next week's show. We know we're going to get the new Shawn Michaels per Roddy Piper. Also British Bulldog, who we heard from earlier, will be in action next week as well here on Superstars of Wrestling. 74 for this segment. That's going to lead us into our main events. It will be the Macho Man, Randy Savage, getting the win over Repo Man. Well, Repo Man's music, an all-timer. What a theme he had. Savage gets the win over Repo Man, 807. The flying elbow drop does it. 72, pretty good match here. This is, look, we're going to lose some popularity early on. I'm well aware of that, but we got to set up our stories, and it is what it is. So Savage gets the win. We know Savage is going to be involved in the 1992 Royal Rumble, and so he gets the victory. Miss Elizabeth with Savage here as the manager. 79 on the in-ring performance from the Macho Man here. So, 72. But what happens afterwards? Savage gets the win over Repo Man. Who do we see? It's that dastardly Jake the Snake Roberts who comes out to the aisleway, and we see Jake. Elizabeth's kind of standing right there. So Jake's at the aisle. Elizabeth's kind of in between, Jake and the Macho Man. And we just see Jake just laughing at Elizabeth from the aisle. This gets to 74 here. Lack of anything interesting happened. I don't even remember what I set for this one, so that's my own fault. Could have done better, but again, this is what happens early in a save. It just happens. So the bigger point is that as soon as Randy Savage sees Jake Roberts up there, Savage just takes off like he would do in any scenario when it comes to Elizabeth, and he gives chase. So he chases after Jake the Snake here, and of course they've got the history, everything that's kind of led up between these two over the past little while now. The snake bite, everything that had happened. So Savage giving chase, and again, we know these two will be involved in the Rumble match as well. So 74 here for this one. Could have been better, but apparently I just did not set certain things the way they need to be set on the freestyle angle. So my own fault there. All right, hopefully this one delivers, and it does, as we wrap up this edition of Superstars of Wrestling. Mean Gene Okerlund with Hulk Hogan. And Hogan is he's just going wild here, right? Like, he is fired up because now he knows, he's no longer the champion, that the title's been vacated, and now he knows he's got to take a big step to getting to that WrestleMania main event to get that WWF Championship back. He's got to win the Royal Rumble for a third straight time, and Gene Okerlund brings that up. The challenge is, Hulkster, you're going to have to win the Rumble now for a third straight time, then have one more step to go before you get that WWF Championship back around your waist. And Hogan's just going off on Taker here. He's going off on Ric Flair, the two guys that essentially were involved in the ultimate decision by Jack Tunney to vacate the WWF title. And so he's going off on both of them, saying he's going to, pick the Undertaker up. He's going to pick the dead man up. He's going to throw him over the top rope. And then he's going to throw Ric Flair over the top rope. And then we keep, Hogan's just going here. He just keeps going. I'll throw the $1 Million Man over. Jake Roberts, the big earthquake, the big typhoon. Hogan's just, again, talking about how he's going to throw everyone over the top, and Gene's just like, calm down, Hulkster. The Rumble's still 2 weeks away. And so Hogan just goes off fired up as he is, more fired up than we've seen Hogan in a while here, as he's pissed off he doesn't have the title anymore, and he's just kind of reeling off all heels, bunch of heels he may throw over in this match. But the top of his list, The Undertaker and Ric Flair. So that's how we go off the air for this edition of Superstars, with Hogan taking aim at Taker, Flair, and more, leading into the high-stakes 1992 Royal Rumble match. So 93 to finish up the show. Like I said, we will lose some popularity. So our production department, the interesting storylines, everything here, just a complete mess. But as you guys know, you come to expect that now from the first show. The first show we do in any save always usually doesn't do well. It's because we initially realize, okay, we should have done that. We forgot to do that. I didn't even pay attention to the music department notes or anything. Again, I just want to jump into the save. It is what it is. We're going to lose some popularity. We're going to gain a little popularity. The next time around, our show will probably do much better. So not really concerned. Always say that on the first episode. But we had a lot of fun booking this. And before we move forward, I just want to say, so yes, initially, in this mod at the start, you have a situation where you're taping 3 episodes of Superstars of Wrestling right off the bat. So I did change that to 1 right now. And the reason why is because if we did this kind of after the fact, it's going to tie into the Royal Rumble. And so I don't want to necessarily book an edition of Superstars before we book the Royal Rumble, if that makes sense. So I know that's kind of the challenges of doing it that way, but I want to kind of get, feet under me a little bit early on in the save. And then what we're going to do is, after the Royal Rumble, we will go back to the 3 tapings of Superstar tapings at once. So I will boom, boom, boom. We'll knock them all out and really book ahead, knowing we got a little time to do that. So that's the only reason I didn't want to do it up front here. And we'll talk more about, also in the next episode, what we're going to do with the particular B shows. We did take Wrestling Challenge off the air, which you'll see in a second. But Primetime Wrestling we're going to keep, and I'll talk about how we'll tie that into the save here moving forward. So a triumphant 68 for the first show. Don't worry, guys. It'll get much better. Soon to get to before we wrap up. All right, so Superstars of Wrestling, pretty good. Not a great show. It'll get better, I promise. Again, some of the things, the final rating had nothing to do with the show itself. It had everything to do with me not improving the production, all that kind of stuff. So I'll do that. I'll get the storylines all kind of settled in, and we'll pick it up from there. As we said, Luke is injured. He's going to work through the pain. Luke's, come on, it's the Bushwackers. They're going to work through the pain here. What did Paul Orndorff win? The SMW TV Championship. Good for Paul Orndorff. Always a fan. All right, drug test fees. Sky One's unhappy. Of course they are. Our show didn't do great. It'll pick back up. Don't worry. Time to heal. El Matador. Tito. Grueling schedule. All right. Well, Luke's injured, as we said. Primetime got a 0.0 TV rating. 52,000 viewers. As we said, challenge goes off the air. So we're going to keep Primetime as our B show. I know some people mentioned, that's obviously a good place to, kind of build up other talent, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to keep that. And as we move forward, I will give you sort of an in-depth update on Primetime. The first time around, we were just trying to kind of switch the schedule around a little bit. So, we'll go through that on the next go-around. But as always, you guys know if I don't jump into the save right away and just get some shows booked, I will lose that momentum. And we don't want that to happen because we've seen that with other saves here on the channel. But, hey, it's why we enjoy wrestling. There's all different time periods that are interesting. And so, we're going to have a lot of fun with this one. And I think that, again, I'm really excited about this just based on the shows and how we can book them and just not having a gazillion segments on these. So there you go. That was the first edition of Superstars of Wrestling, the start, which things will really start to kick up from here. As we said, big stuff coming up on next week's show. British Bulldog in action. Shawn Michaels, the new Shawn Michaels in action. LOD, our tag team champions, they're going to be in action. We'll hear from Ric Flair, Jake Roberts, the Texas Tornado, and a lot more next week on Superstars of Wrestling. So be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you enjoy the nostalgia trip here. It's going to be a lot of fun kind of going through this era. And really, it's an era of change for the WWF at this time. Whether it's kind of how things go into 92, Raw comes in, 93. Everything sort of changes a lot here during this period. So appreciate you guys watching as always. Check out everything else on the channel. WWE 2024, TCW save. Those are the active ones. You go back and watch the other saves that are not active. Lots of episodes in those. So appreciate you watching as always. And on the next episode of our WWF 1992 save, it will be Superstars of Wrestling for January, Week 2.